and thank you for joining us today on this Advantage Business Systems webinar. We're going to have a look at an unboxing of the new Dynamics Business Central product from Microsoft, which Microsoft are pushing as one of the options for the future. They say that this is Dynamics NAV or NAV in the cloud as a SaaS or software as a service product. So this webinar really is an unboxing webinar to have a quick look at it, let you all see what it looks like, have a look at a couple of the new functions or unique things that you can do in this product, and just to give a general idea what it's about. So before we move on, just to introduce myself, my name's Dave Whittam. I am the Dynamics Service Delivery Director at Advantage Business Systems, which is a Microsoft Gold partner based in London. And we cover all the bases really with Dynamics. We have a team that implements and supports Dynamics GP, Dynamics CRM or 365, and Dynamics NAV, Business Central included in that. And we also have a managed services team that can cater for all your Office 365, Azure hosting, everything like that. So we're really a one-stop shop. We do everything under one roof, which is quite a bonus really, because for those of you who may have a Microsoft partner and a different IT partner, for example, sometimes support can be a bit difficult when you're trying to deal with two people or two different businesses to get an issue resolved. Obviously we're all under one roof, so it's one company to deal with. So that's who we are, that's who I am. Just to cover a quick disclaimer before we move on, and hopefully it will be obvious to most of you that this webinar isn't designed to make you an expert in Dynamics Business Central. We have about an hour plus or minus, and I wish it was that easy to become an expert in these products, but it isn't. What this webinar is for is really to offer some insights into how Business Central compares to Dynamics NAV. As I mentioned earlier, look at a couple of the new functions in it, and really it's just to let you all have a look at the product, and hopefully will give you a good sense of whether this is the right move for your business or something that you would want to consider moving forward, whether you're an existing user of Dynamics NAV that's considering a move into the cloud, or whether you're a user of another one of the ERP systems out there and you are considering changing that ERP system into a cloud solution. So let's have a look at what we're going to go through today. We're going to go through the in-client designer, the external accounting hub, inbuilt Excel reporting, embedded Power BI, the image analyzer, and embedded Bing Maps. So just a few little things that we're going to go through today. So without further delay, let's jump into the solution, and here it is. Those of you who are with us today that are existing NAV users, the first thing that you will realize when you look at this is it looks like NAV, but it doesn't look like NAV. And the most obvious thing that's missing for those of you who are NAV users is the menu that you are used to seeing down the left hand side is no longer there. Now that's been moved to the top. And if I drill down into these areas, you will see that all of the areas of functionality that you're used to using, they are still here. Nothing has been taken away, nothing has been removed. It's simply a new changed user interface that works better within a SaaS environment. So we have our company name, we have our menu options. Obviously the next thing that you will see that's quite different is we have this slideshow going on here, insight from the last month, and this is rolling through some useful information based on the systems analysis of our database. So it's telling me who my top customer was. My top customer was a Datum Corporation, and they spent £18,000 with us last month. Now you'll notice when I hover over this, it becomes underlined, and that's because it's dynamic. I can actually drill down into the information behind this. So if I click on that, what it will do is open a page, and here are my 5 top customers for the last month, with a datum at the top, who have purchased to the value of 18,000, School of Fine Art behind them, and so on. My top 5 customers. Moving through, there will be some other information that comes up behind this as well. As you can see, there's 4 different options we have there. The largest posted sales invoice was for 15,853. We closed 2 more deals in the last month than the same period last year. Again, as with the top customers, I can drill down into that information, and this is giving me a list of all of my posted sales invoices for the current month. So some quite useful information that the system gives you up there. We have some common actions on the right hand side of the top tab. We have some activities and some summaries which show us our sales this month, our overdue sales invoices amounts, overdue purchase invoice amount. Now, just to point out whilst we're here, I'm using the business manager's profile here. So those of you who are existing NAV users, the role-tailored client idea of a profile that can be assigned to a specific user that determines what they can and cannot see on their home page of the system, that is still there. That's still part of the system and can still be used. So that hasn't gone anywhere. I, being the business manager profile, am obviously seeing information across sales and purchasing, across my tiles and my activities, and I can obviously see some self-service because I may need to approve timesheets, for example, and my trial balance. Now, as well as some bank accounts. Obviously, if you assigned a purchasing profile to a user, they would not see sales information, they would not see the trial balance. So those restrictions are still available to you. Okay, so hopefully that has given an idea of why it looks slightly different, but also given you a little bit of reassurance that this is still NAV, based on NAV, and the functionality similar to NAV. So moving on from that, let's talk about the end client designer. So I'm going to just quickly go to a customer card. We'll look at a Datum Corporation, this handsome smiling chap here, and the idea of the end client designer is to allow you as a user to make some subtle changes, cosmetic changes if you will, to the design of the client without having to contact your partner to make those changes. So some of these changes, adding fields, removing fields, or moving fields around into a different order, this is something that with previous versions of NAV you wouldn't have been able to do without a developer's license, or you would have had to contact your Microsoft partner to ask them to make these changes for you. So some partners will make these changes free of charge if it's a really quick and small change. Other partners would want to charge you for that. So this allows you to make some of those changes yourself without having to go through to your partner. So let's have a quick look at that. To activate the end client designer, I just need to go up here to my little gear wheel or cog, drop that down and select personalize. Now my settings, just before we go into personalize, this is where you can see which profile I'm using, which company I'm in, what the current work date is, and what my region code is. Now obviously if you are having multiple companies, you could select different companies. As you can see from my drop down in here, you can create new companies and so on. So going back to the end client designer, my little cog, and personalize, you'll notice I get a pop-up box that says I'm personalizing my customer card. I have a little option here for more, and when I select that, it shows me that I have the ability to add some fields. So if I drop that down, you can see I have some fields here that I can add to my customer card. Now let's say, for example, up to this point I haven't applied credit limits to my customers, but I am now going to start to do that. So I'm going to need this credit limit field. All I have to do is grab it and drag it onto the page where I want it. So I'm just going to drag it there. You will see it's now appeared on my page. I'm also, because of applying credit limits, I'm going to want to have the ability to block some customers for non-payment. I'm still not really interested in the cost from a customer perspective, so I'm not going to add that field to the page. You'll notice as I move around the field on the card itself, a little red triangle appears, or if I'm over images, for example, the whole thing is highlighted. And this is simply identifying the fields that I can move and change. So if I click on that, I have an option here to move or hide the field. If I move down and look at some of the other fields that are on the card, we may find that actually there's something that we don't need that we have in here. So let's say, for example, I never reserve products for shipping for a customer, so I don't need this field. So I just need to click on the little red triangle and I can say hide, and that hides the field. And you can see it pops in to my available fields to now bring back into the customer card if I wanted to do that. So it's really that simple to use. Once I am finished with what I want to do, I simply select done, and it will save my changes. So you can see I now have my credit limit available here, and I can give this customer a credit limit. So let's give them a £5,000 credit limit, and I have my blocked field which I've added, which allows me to block for shipment, block for invoicing, or block altogether. So that will include sales orders. And that is the in-client designer. Obviously I can go into any one of our customers. Let's look at this lovely lady here, School of Fine Art, and you can see the fields are on her customer card as well. So the changes that I've made to a customer card will affect all customer cards. This in-client designer is available throughout the system in most areas, and you can have a go with it. You know, if you signed up for a Business Central trial, for example, and get a good idea of exactly what it does and doesn't allow you to do. But hopefully it does give you that option to make some small minor cosmetic changes to not only cards but list views as well. So your item list view, for example, we're looking at it as pictures at the moment, but if I had it as a list view, again, clicking on personalize, you can see that I am able to personalize this list view as well, exactly the same way that I was able to personalize my customer card. And you can see the fields that I have available to add to this list. So for example, if I was selling a product that we needed to track quite clearly, because we were in the food industry or the medical industry, for example, and we needed to be able to track everything, we could add this item tracking code to our list view simply by dragging it across. So there is a lot of use to this tool, this in-client designer. So hopefully that'll give you a brief taste of the in-client designer and what it does. The next thing on our agenda, going back to my slide, is the external accounting hub. So the external accounting hub, what this is, really has been put forward by Microsoft as something to assist those businesses, for example, that may be quite small, maybe charities, one of those businesses that may have an external accountant that they hire. So some small businesses we go into as a Microsoft partner to implement ERP systems can be quite small businesses who may have a bookkeeper, for example, but not a chartered accountant, and they may hire somebody to assist with things like year-end, VAT reporting, management accounts, creation of management account reports, packs, and so on. This would be perfect for that kind of business. And what the idea is that it allows you as a company to invite an external accountant to access your Business Central system remotely. And if you are an external accountant, it allows you to have a portal where you can manage multiple customers who are on Business Central, all from one place. So let's have a brief look at that quickly and talk through it. So the accountant portal access allows the external accountant to access that portal and manage their clients. It allows the customer or the owner of the company or the Business Central product to invite their external accountant and to invite that accountant to manage their business via this accountant portal. So looking at the accountant portal, this is what it looks like, and this effectively is what the external accountant would see. They would see a list of the companies that they have been invited to with some summary information. We've got some cash account balances, overdue purchase invoice, overdue sales invoices, and other information. So moving on to that, they can have a quick look at some more detail on the company details. They can expand fields and see certain information at a summary level. How the external accountant can manage their clients, obviously we've talked about this client list in the accountant portal, and they can, from the client summary option, if they click on that, it provides a drop-down box where they can refresh the data for the current companies, where they can reload the data for all companies, where they can redisplay all companies, or indeed where they can go to the company. So if they select that option, if they select the go to company option, what happens then is they are actually taken into that particular company in Business Central and are able to work in it. So they, for example, can select some Excel reports and run those reports. Everything's available to them there. We'll have a look at some of this Excel reporting in a little bit. Or they can just work in the company as normal. So as a business or as a company, how do we do this? How do we invite our external accountant to manage our company? And to do that, you do it from within the product. Obviously you would need to set your external accountant up as a user first. So you can see down here I have a accountant user that's been created, and I have an option on the menu here that says invite external accountant. You will also see that I can assign permission sets, user group memberships, and allow posting dates and so on against these users. So I can restrict what the external accountant is able to do within the business or within my company using permission sets and using posting date restrictions and so on. Once I select the invite external accountant option, I have a walkthrough or guided wizard assisted setup, if you will, that will help me go through what I need to do to invite this external accountant. So the first thing I need to do is accept the EULA, click next, and then enter the details of the accountant. So I can enter the accountant's name and the email address. The email address is obviously very important because that is how we'll see in a moment the accountant is able to accept the invitation, access our company, and if they are managing other Business Central companies, they can add your company to their accountant portal. We have a welcome email here which can be changed and amended to word as you want it to be worded. So we fill that in, we select next, and then we have a success message. So the next stage of this obviously is, well, what does the external accountant see as far as this invitation is concerned? they will receive an email which looks similar to this. This is a email template, so obviously if you wanted this to be modified or changed to be a little prettier and have logos on it and so on, that's something we could certainly help with. But the other thing you'll notice is there's two sections here. Use this link to accept the invitation, and use this link when adding this client in your accountant portal. So these are the two links that I mentioned earlier. Accepting the invitation link will activate the user and their ability to access and log into your company. And if they're an existing portal user, this will add your company to their list of companies in the user. If they are not, you will see that we have an option here for the external accountant to create an accountant portal where they can start adding and setting up different businesses in Business Central that they manage. Once they have been invited, they can access your company and they can carry out the work that they need to be carrying out according to the permissions that you have granted them. So what are the benefits to this? Obviously you can streamline communication between your company and external accountant. You can improve control of data and business if you're a smaller business, and you can limit errors and ensure better data entry as well. So that is a brief overview of the accountant portal. Just touching on the assisted setup, one of the things that I wanted to make you aware of here under setup and extensions, you will see assisted setup as an option here next to manual setup, and one of the assisted setup options is to invite an external accountant, and selecting that will take you through the wizard if you have the licenses available to invite and set up that external accountant. Okay, so moving on to the next thing on our agenda, which was the inbuilt Excel reporting. So having a look at that, let's just go back to our home page here and we'll have a look at the options that we have available for Excel reports. You can see on the actions that I have an option for Excel reporting. The Excel reporting gives me several reports that I'm able to use in Excel itself, and what that does, if I for example select the retainings earnings statement, you'll notice it doesn't actually open a report. What it does is it exports an Excel template. So if I look at that Excel template, it will open in my Excel, my local installation of Excel, but you will see it's blank, and it's blank because we haven't connected it to Business Central here. And some of you may be thinking this is a little strange. Well, what's the benefit of this? So the benefit of this is that once you have activated these templates, and I have a few that I've activated in my demo folder here, you can see I've got my accounts payable, accounts receivable, I've got a balance sheet, and I've got a trial balance. So once you have these templates and you've activated them, you can effectively run a report which is your data or report at the time you run that report without actually even having to log in to Business Central. Once you have logged into the Excel add-in, it's permanently logged in, it saves your details, and then all you need to do is run the Excel template and you will get your reporting details. So let's have a look at one of those, shall we? Let's, for example, have a look at my trial balance. So all I need to do is double click this. It will open in Excel. You will see here is my add-in, which is using my Office 365 single sign-on, and I have to sign in as this. Let me just do that. I think it's because I've signed into my Power BI account here as my user rather than my demo user, so that has overwritten my sign-in details. So let's try that again and open a different report, the same report again, sorry. and we will sign in with the demo details I have. And let me just quickly get that password up. I'll have to go into my email to do that, so bear with me 1 second. Here is the password I need. Check that's correct and sign in. So this hiccup happened, as I mentioned, simply because I've signed into my demo account and I've then signed into my personal account. As you can see here, this is my personal account in Power BI, because there's a couple of things I want to show you in that. So most people will not be signing in with multiple accounts like I am, and that's the only reason why this signed me out. It should retain your details and you wouldn't have to sign in again. So what you've noticed immediately is I've just opened a template, but I have data in here. This is my trial balance. Now I can refresh that, and what it does, you can see down here, it goes away to Business Central, it connects, and it refreshes the data in my Excel report, all without me having to log in to Business Central at all. So let me just close this this report. Let's look at, for example, our accounts payable. The same thing will happen here. The report will open in Excel. The add-in kicks off. You can see it's logged in, it's retrieving the information, refreshing my data, and updating my report. These are my aged accounts payable. It's gone away, it's connected to Business Central, it's pulled the information down, it's given me my report, and without me having to log in to Business Central. So we'll look at the last one. Let's look at accounts receivable. This will do exactly the same thing. Off it goes with the add-in, connecting, retrieving, refreshing data, and updating my workbook. There it is. So it gives you the date, it's been aged as of, the date it's been printed, the company it's connecting to, the currency, and so on. All of this without logging in at all to Business Central. Let's just open the trial balance quickly. One of the things I didn't show you that I just want you to quickly see once this is refreshed is that it doesn't just pull through the summary report, it pulls through all of the data as well. So you can see here, this is obviously my chart of account structure, and this is the data within each report. So these are the Excel reporting options within Business Central, and the benefit of this, as I mentioned, additional reports can be created if needed, but the key benefit of this is for someone who may need to run reports regularly, or send out daily reports or weekly reports, whatever it is, but doesn't necessarily need to be permanently logged into the Business Central product. They can just have these templates available on their machine, and as long as there's a connection to Business Central, for example you have internet, opening those templates will connect the spreadsheet to the Business Central product and refresh that report with the latest data at the time it's run. So a really useful tool that can be used directly from Excel and using that Excel add-in, which is quite nice. So sticking with reporting, the next thing that was on our agenda was Power BI, or embedded Power BI. So this is why I signed in with my personal Power BI account, because I have quite a few reports available in here and quite a few things that we've done to show what can be done with Power BI. Some of you may know about Power BI, some of you may not be so familiar with it. Most of you, especially if you are existing Dynamics Nav users, will have heard of Jet Reports, for example, which is a great reporting tool that works well with Dynamics NAV. Power BI can work separate, or it can work in conjunction with something like Jet Reports to create great looking dashboard. So before I look at or show you the embedded Power BI option within Business Central, let's just have a quick look at a couple of these reports so you can see what's possible. So you can see I have a Jet Enterprise income statement report here that is actually feeding off Dynamics GP, not Dynamics NAV. And this is giving me a great income statement report for all of the companies that I have within my database. And it's a great dashboard showing net changes, figures. I can select different months. You can see as I select those months, the report updates dynamically because it's filtering on that particular month. So it's really quite powerful in that sense, and that's not NAV. If we look at, for example, a NAV option, here's an item sales and profit report. We can look at a NAV 2017 trial balance that we've created in-house, and this gives us similar filter options, so I can go through my financial year month by month and the results will display only for those months as it acts as a filter. You can get really detailed. So if we look at this example that we created for one of our clients who does pet insurance, this is analysis on the pet insurance claims across the UK over a certain period by county and by particular illness or disease that the pets were suffering for. And you can see there's a huge amount of detail in here, how many policies we have, how many claims received, the common issues and the counties and the claim amounts. All my filtering is available, so I could, for example, drill into Hampshire, filter that. So now I'm only looking at Hampshire. You can see I've got Portsmouth postcodes, I've got Southampton postcodes. If I take that information away, I've now got the whole country again. I can create heat maps, and this is obviously using integration with Bing Maps. I can look at map by country, I can look at pet detail. There's a wealth of information in here. I can flip between cats and dogs, or both, depending on what you prefer. I'm probably more of a dog person. So this hopefully will give you an idea of just what is possible with Power BI. So let's take this back into a Business Central area and focus. And the great thing about Business Central and NAV 2018, for example, we can embed Power BI reports within our Business Central solution. So if I scroll down from my role center, below my trial balance, you will see I have Power BI reports here. And you can see I actually have one of my Power BI reports. I have an option here which allows me to refresh the report, look at a previous report, go to a next report, or select reports. Now, this is signed into my demo account, which only has one report available, which is this Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance report. But if I was signed into this account, for example, then effectively I would have all of these reports available to select from. And it's as simple as selecting the report that you want on the list, clicking OK, and the Power BI reports box will go away, connect to that report and display it. Now we can go into focus mode, which kind of zooms you in. You'll see my filters are available here, so I'm looking at 2016, 2017. As I take those off, you can see the report changes, so it's fully dynamic. I'm only interested in 17, 18, current year and previous year. Now, some people may say, well, that's really small. I don't know how useful that is, especially if I've got a very detailed dashboard like this one here. And yes, you wouldn't be wrong. But you do have an option here to expand the report. And when you expand the report, what it does is it opens that report full page for you. So this again, if you're using Power BI, if you are thinking of using Power BI, or if you are looking for a business intelligence dashboard tool that you can integrate with your ERP solution, this is a great option. And as we've shown here, you can actually have those reports available directly from within your ERP solution. So how does that help you if we're talking Power BI? Well, the great thing is, to get to these reports, I had to log in to my Office 365 account or to the Power BI website. I then had to select Power BI. I then had to select my report. If it's embedded in your solution, you don't have to go to Power BI. You don't have to log in to Power BI. You don't have to select your report. The last report you selected is just there each time you come into Business Central. And to bounce between your reports, you simply use Select Report from within Business Central and choose the report that you want to look at without having to go through the process of navigating to the Power BI page and logging into the Power BI page to view those reports. So that's another great option, and that's, just to be clear, is available in Dynamics NAV as well, but it works really well in Business Central as a SaaS product as well. So hopefully that's give you a bit of an idea of Power BI, what it can do and how you can integrate it. So moving on to the next thing that was on our agenda, and that was the image analyzer. So to look at the image analyzer and to talk about that for a second, let me go into my my item list. As you know, earlier we were looking at those as tiles or images. That's an option you have in the solution as well. The image analyzer, with Dynamics NAV 2017, functionality was released around business attributes, where you could assign specific attributes to a product. So for example, this Athens desk that I have highlighted here, you can see the item attributes I'm talking about here. I've got a color, I've got a depth, I've got a width, I've got a height, I've got a material description. Now, what the image analyzer does for you is that it will allow you to put an image or a photograph of your product into the system, run the image analyzer, and it will automatically assign some of those attributes for you. So let's go into this chair. Here is my image analyzer once it's set up, and it's as simple as, once the image is in, you analyze picture, it will come up and show you what it's detected, that it's a seat, that it's furniture, and what it thinks that you should assign to those items. So it takes away the full manual setup requirements. It will scan and assign certain attributes and descriptive fields for you automatically from the image analyzer. So let's, for example, go back to my Athens desk. I know we've got attributes already, but let's analyze picture on this. You can see that it detected this as a table, and they detected it as an indoor table. Whereas with my previous image, let's go to a different one. Let's look at the swivel chair, and we'll run the image analyzer on here. It's detected this as a chair. So this image analyzer is able to recognize things. It won't be able to populate all the information, obviously, but it can recognize the difference between products. It'll know if it's a chair, it'll know if it's a table, it'll know if it's a lamp, and that can go a long way as part of your setup of new products to help you assign descriptive attributes without having to do the whole lot of them manually. The system will detect some of them for you. Now, we're talking about items here. The image analyzer is not just available on items. So let's have a little bit of fun with this, because you've got to do this. You know, you have to have a little bit of fun with these systems, or you'd go mad. So let's go back into one of our customers, for example. We'll go into this handsome chap again, a Dayton corporation. Let's look at we won't scan his image. Let's look at some of the contacts against this customer. You can see I have created myself as a contact against this company. Not quite as good looking a chap, but there is an image of me, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the image analyzer against my picture and hope that it detects that I am a human male and not something strange. So let's run that, and off it goes. It's scanning my picture. Now it's come up with this message because if you remember when we were looking at the items, it didn't come up saying good work, it just came up with a pop-up box of what it had detected, and that is because the image analyzer had been run against that picture before. It's coming up with this on this particular picture because it's the first time the image analyzer has been run against this image. So it's saying good work, I've successfully scanned the picture. You can see the result of the image analysis below. So on the profile questionnaire, so let's go down there, and here it is. It's detected me as a male, which is great. It's detected my age as 47, which I will just say is pretty close, not quite right, but pretty close. But we can see here the point of this is that this image analyzer is able to scan multiple things for us and able to provide a lot of information for us. So if we put this into the context of a business, let's for example say that you were a business that did a lot of marketing, direct to consumer or direct to customer marketing, and you had, obviously with permission, especially with GDPR coming in May this year. Those of you who need to know more about that can contact us as well. But you have images of products or customers, and you are wanting to profile something, you're wanting to send an advertising campaign out, but you only want to send it out to women between the ages of 30 and 40, for example. The image analyzer is the kind of tool that will help you run through your customer list and or prospects that have come in that you may have an image for, to determine for you or help you to determine if they are female and between the ages of 20 and 30, as well as the earlier example that we gave around it being able to help you auto-populate certain fields and attributes on your products. So that's the image analyzer. It's a great tool. It can be used for a host of different things, and we'll move on to the final thing in our webinar today. Just go back to my homepage, and the final thing that we were going to look at today was embedded Bing maps. So similar to our earlier Power BI embedded reports, you can also embed Bing maps into your system. So where would that be useful? Let's go back into one of our customers. Let's go back into, in fact, let's go to the School of Fine Art. Now you can see here under the address and contact tab, you have the option to show on map. Now again, with an assisted setup, you can set up your integration with maps. If I select this option, show on map, it asks me, do I want to look at this address on the map, which is the address or primary address on the customer card, so that in this case is Hightower Green, Miami, Florida, or do I want to look at another address? So if I select other address, it gives me options from my company. So let's clarify this so it's really clear for those of you who may not be existing NAV users or may not be familiar with how this is set up. So within the system you have an area called company information, and within that area you put your company name, your company logo, and your company address. So when we are looking at the map integration and it's asking you if you want directions from your company address, that is where it's taking the address from. if the company itself that you are looking at here has multiple addresses available to it, so for example it may have multiple shipping addresses. Let's see if this company has any. It doesn't, so let's jump into a company that does. I believe a datum may have multiple addresses. You can see here I've got a Cheltenham address, I've got a London address. So when I click on show on map, and the option here is to other, those are the addresses that it is talking about, the customer's alternate addresses and directions from my company or directions from another address. So how would this be useful? Let's first just look at what this does, and then we'll talk about how it would be useful. So show map with this address. This is my Cambridge address for this particular company, a datum. If I select OK, I have a pop-up blocker on. Let me just allow pop-ups from this address, because what it's going to do is it's going to load that address and into Maps for me. Now you will notice here this is not Bing Maps, this is Google Maps, and the reason I've done that is just to prove the point that although this is integration with Bing Maps, it's not just Bing Maps you can integrate into the system. You can integrate Google Maps as well if you like. So how is this useful in a business situation? So if, to paint an example of that, if I play the role of a salesperson and I am wanting to go to this address, I have to come into my browser, I have to come into Google, I have to manually type in the address of where I want to go, I have to select I want directions, and I have to select your location or a different location before it will give me that address. So there's quite a lot of manual steps in that. With Business Central, if I am a salesperson for a business that uses Business Central, I would have the universal app, for example, on my mobile phone. So all I would have to do is open the universal app. It would automatically log me into Business Central. I could then come into my customer list in the app on my phone, select the customer that I have a sales meeting with today that I need to go to. Then from within the phone app, I select the address, give me directions to that address. Now because I was on my phone, I wouldn't have to type in the address. It would know my location, it would give me the address, and I can then drive to or walk to or whatever it happens to be to that customer directly from my phone. So it can be really useful if you are, for example, a sales representative or an account manager or that sort of thing. Equally, if you are a business that does professional services or service management, so you may have engineers who are out on the road servicing telephone systems or compressors or whatever it happens to be, they can also use this functionality on a daily basis to get themselves directions directly to customer sites that they have on their list for the day to service products at. So it can be really useful. It's a really useful option. It's nice to have it embedded in the system, and it can make things quite a lot more efficient. So in summary, I hope this has been beneficial to you. I hope that you've learned something, and I hope that we may have answered some of the questions you might have had around Business Central or around the Dynamics product range. If we haven't, please feel free to get hold of us. We're going to go to a Q&A session now, as we do at the end of these webinars. So I've had Suraj Vakaria here with me today, who's one of our NAV consultants, and he's been collating questions. So we'll have a look at some of those questions now. If we're not able to answer your question, or you have a question you want to ask us directly, or you would just like to know more information, please don't hesitate to get hold of us. Give us a call, send us an email. We'll very gladly get in touch with you, show you the products that you may want to see, talk to you about things a little bit more, and help you as much as we can. Other than that, thank you for coming today. I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you again at a future webinar. Thanks very much.